This podcast is part of the Listen Frederick Podcast Network. To learn more, visit listenfrederick.com.
The Fedora Files.
Hello and welcome to the Fedora Files. I am Gregory Fedora, and here we are. I got an interesting podcast I want to do. It's about the Dwayyo. I've done stuff about the Dwayyo before. I've done stuff on my Happy Little Monsters video as well as it's in my book, and I think I even did a podcast about the Dwayyo. This is kind of an update because this is really interesting. And my source is coming from a guy named Lon Strickler. Let me tell you about Lon. I want to have him on my show because this guy is fascinating. If you haven't been to his website, this guy is the real deal. He's legit. Lon Strickler, he's an author, publisher of the syndicated Phantoms and Monster blog, and that's where you can find, if you type in Phantoms and Monsters, you can find his website. He began the blog in 2005, which has steadily grown in popularity and is read daily by tens of thousands of paranormal enthusiasts, investigators, and those seeking the truth. His research and reports have been featured on hundreds of online media sources. Several of these published reports have been presented on various television segments, including the History Channel's Ancient Aliens, Sci-Fi's Paranormal Witness, Fact or Fake Paranormal Files, and Destination America's Monsters and Mysteries in America. He's been interviewed hundreds of times on radio and online, including Coast to Coast, Destination America's Monsters and Mysteries, and the Sykesville Monster episode. He has written 9 books and is currently the host of Phantom and Monsters Radio on YouTube. So you can check him out on YouTube. You can check him out. And I've talked to him a few times online, and he has agreed to come on the show. We just got to figure out when. But I'm super excited about that. Now, he interviewed these people, and I want to kind of go over the interview. But first, let me explain what the Dwayyo is. Now, Dwayyo is also been known as a hex wolf. Some people would call it a dog man. Basically, it's this upright, canine-like creature. It's a monstrous thing, kind of like a werewolf, only it's like in most, it wouldn't be a human by day and a monster by night. It's basically this way all the time, but it's a nocturnal creature. Now, the reason I'm fascinated with it is that it is the bitter enemy of the snallygaster. And oftentimes, if there's a sighting of the Dwayyo, snallygaster is not far behind, and vice versa. They've just been at it. You know, as I said, it was always known as the hex wolf in the Pennsylvania area, dogman if you go to Michigan, just wolfman, whatever. And then in Maryland, it's known as the Dwayyo. That's what it was called. It got that name in the 1900s, like around 1950, 1960. Before that, it was just the hex wolf. But so this couple in Washington County, which is really close to where I live, which is on the other side of South Mountain. I live on the east side of South Mountain, and this is more west of South Mountain. So this couple lives in Hagerstown, Maryland. And here I'm going to read the report that Lon did, and you can find it on his website. And I believe he also did it on YouTube. He talked about it. But so this is from Hagerstown, Maryland. A couple was driving south on Sharpsburg Pike, about 3 miles north of the Antietam National Battleground, when they observed an upright cryptid canine approaching the highway. This is what the man says. He goes, "My wife and I witnessed a dog man-looking creature, or Dwayyo, Monday night, August 7th, 2023. While driving northbound on Route 65, which is Sharpsburg Pike, south of Rockland Drive, just south of Hagerstown, Maryland, approximately at 2200 hours. We had just left the ACT Travel Center that's located at the intersection of Route 65 and Lampins Road. After eating dinner there, it was dark out, with the only light illumination being that of their headlights, some street lights, and headlights from a single approaching car. At the initial time of witnessing the creature, the approaching car was about 500 feet in front of them." That he continues and says, "I was driving and my wife was in the front passenger seat as we were approaching Rockland Drive. Something immediately caught my attention in my left peripheral. When I looked over, I saw what appeared to be a dogman-looking creature running at a super fast pace right towards the road from an open field. I quickly realized that if I maintained my own driving speed, I might actually hit it if it continued coming across the road, so I immediately came down pretty hard on the brakes. As it got closer to the road, my headlights put some limited illumination on the creature, but I never got closer than approximately 20 to 50 feet from it. As soon as I hit the brakes, my wife exclaimed, "What the hell is that?" As I got up by the road, the approaching car started to make it harder to see due to its own headlights, and we lost sight of it, never to be seen again once the car had passed us. We don't know if the creature crossed behind the passing car or not, as we never witnessed it actually come onto the road. As crazy as it sounds, I don't know if it actually may have hurtled other vehicles. We didn't see it do that or what. With its speed and build, I would have to say it was very well may have had the ability to do so, but obviously I can't say for certainly. We were both very shaken by what we had just witnessed. Now, my wife and I described our accounts of what we witnessed very similarly. It was running upright on two legs, eastbound, from an open field directly towards the road. It had dog-like legs. Traveling about 30, 35 miles an hour. I've never seen anything on two legs run so fast in my life. The legs were significantly smaller in proportion to the upper body. It was kind of narrow at the waist. Its body got larger through the torso, from above the waist up to its shoulders, being largest in the chest area. Its head was pointy and two upright pointed ears. It was completely black in color, and it appeared to be fully covered in fur except around the face snout area. Neither of us is super confident of seeing a tail, as we were both focused on other aspects of the build. Continue to say, all I can say is that my absolute first thought when seeing it, I immediately recognized it as being a werewolf dog man looking creature, and they typically have been described as having a large bushy tail. My wife said the very first thing that caught her focus was how fast it was running and the shape and look of its head. She said she then took notice of its uniquely shaped legs. She is not super familiar with cryptid field, but when I showed her several different artist renditions of what a werewolf dogman may look like, she absolutely agreed that they were extremely similar to what she had seen. I also agreed that this is what I witnessed as well. Once we got home and continued the discussion, this encounter, I began thinking this whole thing through to try and debunk it or come up with some kind of logical explanation as to how this may have been just an illusion, or whatever you want to call it. I've traversed the road in both directions probably well over 100 times in both day and night settings over the years, clearly never having anything anywhere close to this experience there ever before. I kept picturing in my head the area in which we witnessed this. For the life of me, I was nearly certain that there was not a single thing in that field that could have possibly reflected off any light to create a shadow effect. We drove back to this area later, as I wanted to take the time to see if what we saw had been done by some odd shadow effect and had been created by the headlights of my car and or the approaching car. We went back in the daylight and again at night and confirmed that the field was wide open, there with absolutely nothing for light to reflect off of. We recreated the event as I drove in the same direction at the same location with the oncoming traffic and was not able to reproduce a single aspect of what we had witnessed. This has left both my wife and I to conclude and be convinced that what we had witnessed was real, a physical creature. While doing some light online research on possible similar sightings, I came across some articles about a creature named the Dwayyo. It has been documented to have been seen in Gambrel State Park and all along the Catoctin Mountains between Frederick, Wolfville, and Thurmont, including in Cunningham Falls State Park, where two park rangers claimed to have witnessed the creature. After reading the creature's descriptions from these witnessed accounts, I had my wife read them for herself. At this point, it is our belief that this is the very creature that we had witnessed that night. Now here's a witness addendum that Lon put in. Throughout this particular day of our encounter, beginning in the mid-afternoon hours, there was a very significant outbreak of severe weather that occurred in this region that continued into the early evenings. This included torrential downpours over 70 miles per hour winds, large hail, and frequent lightning. There were successive severe cells that came through in waves throughout a several-hour time frame. The likes of this weather event hadn't been seen in this region in over 10 years, and it was insane. I remember that night, it was absolutely crazy, like the lightning storms that we had in this area. However, at the time of our encounter, there were no storms in the area. It wasn't raining and no wind to any degree whatsoever. It was a very peaceful night at this point, as the last storm had passed through the area a few hours prior. Could it have been possible that the creature had fled the mountainous area to seek safety, as there had been very significant tree falls along those mountains and surrounding areas during those weather events, and it was on its way returning to its home when we saw it? As a crow flies, as they say, the nearest mountain is approximately 10 miles away. With as fast as this creature was witnessed running, it would only taken a relatively short time for it to get back up into the dense woods of the mountain range from which it has been witnessed in the past. This was very definitely the direction in which it was traveling when we had our encounter. No way of knowing for sure, but just a thought. Now, this is what Lon had to say about this interview that he did. Now, Lon said, I interviewed the witnesses and can confirm his statements that were given to me personally and what was contained in the report. I was referred to the witness by another investigator who resides in Maryland. The Dwayyo is a moniker given to the upright cryptid canyons described by 19th century German farmers, mostly Pennsylvania Dutch, who had moved southwest into western Maryland from their original locations in Lancaster and York, Pennsylvania counties. These descriptions were similar to the old country interpretations of werewolves that were a part of Central European culture and lore. Now, so I don't know what they saw. They obviously had an encounter with something freaked these people out. And Lon went on to interview them, which is amazing. I would love to see if I can find these people in Hagerstown and talk to them. I'd like, perhaps Lon, when he comes on, he will let me know who they were, and I would like to talk and sit down with them as well, because that's a very interesting article. So there you have it. A Dwayyo sighting in 2023, a few months ago, and about 20 miles from my house. So that's pretty cool. Was it real? Do I believe it was real? I don't know. I know they saw something. They experienced something that freaked them out. What was it? What do you think it was? So I'm excited about that, because that just is it's a fun lore, middle Maryland, Western Maryland, Dwayyo, the stories. And it's kind of cool to have a current sighting of the creature that, isn't like decades old. So as you go about your business, remember to stay safe and keep searching.
Fedora Files.
Check out FedoraCRT.com today.